So my plan here is to I was shooting for 15 minutes, but in practicing about 20 minutes of just sharing some information, and then the rest of the time, 2/3 of our time, I'd like to spend in exploration together and see what we can learn together. So the title John and I came up with is Creating Prototype Master Units via the Resilient Communities Project. So we're looking at the overlaps between those two concepts. So I'll start on the Resilient Communities Project. I'll get to master units a little bit at the end, but there's other people here that know a lot more about master units than I do. So we'll do a little exploration of that together. So the premise of the Resilient Communities Project is one of the first premises is that our fossil fuel powered economic system is, many of us can see that it's destroying the conditions that we all depend upon for our survival. So it's kind of self-consuming in a way. And lots of people pin their hopes on renewable energy, thinking that that's going to solve it, and it just won't. We don't have time, it's too late, and the resources required are just aren't there, etc. I'm not going to prove that right now, but that's part of the premise. So the only livable future for, enough of humanity, for most of humanity, is to simplify our lives, especially in the industrialized world, by greatly reducing our energy use over time as quickly as possible. So this will require, instead of the high-tech energy-consuming technologies, more appropriate technologies, an old term from the 70s that many people here will be familiar with. So to do that, to reduce energy use, a lot, maybe most people will have to move back to and live off the land. This is what happens when civilizations fall. The cities empty and people spread out on the land again. But fortunately, country life, at least for a lot of us, is healthier and happier than city life. And even for those that don't see it that way now, hopefully they'll find out. So who are we? The Resilient Communities Project is composed of a pretty experienced organizing team. We got some really good people. Whoever's, there's somebody there that might want to mute yourself. I heard some background.
I just don't know how they find their
Yeah,
name.
Prakash, maybe you can mute everybody but me, so we don't have the background noise. We have a number of landholders with from 2 to 3 acres involved. Can we do something about the background noise? It's a little
from Prout Alliance and whatever.org.
Okay.
Can somebody
I can
maybe
Brad, you're a co-host. You can actually mute.
Can I do it? Okay.
Yes.
Let
So
me see.
open participants and mute anybody you want.
Well, I just want, okay, where is it?
That was
Participants?
Prakash, who was the host.
Mute all. Okay, just muted everybody, I think. Anyway, well, mute all. There we go. Yes. So did that mute me? It muted everybody but me. Okay, I used my power. Okay, back. Thank you, Julie, for your guidance there. Let me get back to my notes. And so we've got a bunch of landholders, and we've got a formative group of people who are interested in becoming part of the community. We're in our outreach stage because it's going to take a lot of people to find the right people that gel together to create core groups, to create these initial communities. So we got a lot more outreach to do. I guess this is part of it. So here's the basic concept. First of all, the what, why, here, while, when, all that stuff. The what is a network we're envisioning. We have to start, somewhere, but eventually a network of small, we'll get into that, multi-generational, socially and economically cooperative communities. Why survive and thrive as the neoliberal system that we're living in continues to unravel, as many of us see it doing. How? We need to innovate and then demonstrate what we believe is the transformative power of convivial, which means togetherness, equitable and sustainable way of life. Where we're focused on the Pacific Northwest right now, because that's kind of where we're starting, but we have connections and people in different parts of the country and the world that we could, collaborate with or expand with. And when? Now. I wish it was yesterday. We feel some urgency. So this could be considered a form of intentional community if many of us are familiar with that concept. But many of those communities haven't done so well. They've failed or they've floundered. The main reason that we see, many of us see, is that interpersonal relationships can be really, really challenging. So what's it going to take for success? Well, certainly focusing on the interpersonal relationships, and maybe one way that we can do that is because our society and our institutions are failing to be able to learn from experience and mistakes and remedy them and change. So and that includes interpersonal stuff. So we want to build and we're working on building the ability to learn from our successes and failures into everything that we're doing. So that's a key focus that we have. The basic idea is that however much we know, it's never much in the big scheme of things. It's never complete, that's for sure. And it's often wrong, at least partially wrong. So we need to leave our egos at the gate and learn to grow together with humility. Let's talk about the framework. We are, for these purposes, defining resilient community as 4 things. A community that nurtures the healing and well-being of its members and the wider community. A community that rejuvenates the ecosystems that it depends upon, including building the soil and benefiting the climate rather than damaging it. That provides simple, affordable, low-impact housing and infrastructure, and that regeneratively produces much or most of its own food and other necessities. We're envisioning pretty small groups, 5 to 15 adults, plus any children, maybe in the 10 or so range on average, who will cooperatively acquire permanent land and housing based on sound agreements for the common good. Really critical. The members don't have to have capital. We need some people with capital, but we need people with skills, and they're very often not the same people, especially the people with land-based skills. They haven't made a lot of money doing that. And they're just as important as the people who can come in with money and help fund it a little bit more. And people will be able to, at this stage, help create these and later on join existing communities. So we have a cooperative land tenure model. Land tenure means how the land is held. Starts with processes to achieve a good fit amongst the people, get the right people, find people that are aligned and have a diversity of necessary skills. It'll need an economic structure to free ourselves as much as possible from the extractive mainstream economy. So we're not pulled down by that. By reducing our living costs, we can invest our surplus into growing a sustainable and equitable alternative economy. So that's part of our vision, is the seeds in building a different economy. In service of that, we envision no rents or mortgages. Instead, there's a monthly equity and operating cost share that people will pay in. We want to make it as affordable as possible. We want to add to that the possibility for sweat equity, how people can use their labor, and value any kind of material contributions people bring into it. What people get as far as in exchange for the equity they're building up, the financial equity and the legal equity, is a qualified permanent control over a housing unit and or a piece of the land, control over that. Qualified means that it's subject to housing co-op rules and land trust conditions that are established, collaboratively in advance, and everybody agrees to when they join, etc. So when people leave, they can sell their equity, but it has to be sold to people who are thoroughly vetted according to the policies that have been established. And they'll receive their their equity that they built up based on value. It's not going to be market rate equity. They're not going to be able to sell it for whatever they got, but they'll get what they put in. And we can add inflation and some valuation for permanent improvements that they've made in some fair manner. So the mechanisms for this cooperative land tenure model are two. The first one is the Resilient Community Land Trust. This is a legal way of holding land that will establish a permanent commons. It'll provide a basis, an agreement basis for living sustainably on the land and regeneratively too. The initial core team will develop a binding land use charter that's part of the land trust. This charter will define how the land is allocated fairly amongst people over time, and how it can be stewarded, and guarantee that it's stewarded for regenerative purposes and not exploited or extracted from. Members will certainly help elect and even possibly serve on the governing board of the land trust. And then the other one is resilient community housing co-ops for each community. They will be composed physically typically of clustered housing to meet zoning rules that don't allow, in most rural areas, a bunch of separate houses. But these can be designed to provide people with all the privacy that they want and need. It's just they're not going to be spread out as much as they might prefer. But there's ways to build in privacy and quietude. The bylaws will be drafted in a way to help prevent, manage, or resolve the inevitable interpersonal problems and conflicts that are going to come up when you get people together. And one way for that is to establish the policies for how we vet people initially, which includes exploratory periods to see how people are working out and how people like the community. Communication training, different kind of training, so people have the skills. Mediation clauses for as needed to work out problems. And so the initial core team will develop these bylaws and member selection policies. It'll include critically to be fair procedures to terminate memberships if people seriously violate the bylaws or the charters. We have to be able to get out the bad apples, because one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch in a community. A number of us have seen this happen. The equity people have accumulated, if they're terminated, will be returned, so they're not walking away with anything. There might be some arbitration or other properly determined costs that are part of the policies. Again, it has to be a fair process. A couple other kind of elements. The saving, if people keep their savings and money and they're in a community fund, we can invest that in developing the community and financing community enterprises instead of we keep our money outside the community. So we're working on, how to do that. We got some really good ideas about how to do that, and we're certainly looking for more for people. John and I and Chris just had a meeting the other day about funding. And then with adequate funding out of operations, we'd like to be able to provide long-term care in old age and disability to people, so that, as people get older, they're not forced out into the cold, so to speak. So resilient communities will require a very diverse membership with a variety of resources, experiences, and skills. On the management side, we're going to need vision, leadership, facilitation. That's a lot of what we're providing right now. Organization and entrepreneurship skills, administration and finance. That's an area we might be a little weak in, so we could certainly use people that are better at that than certainly I am. It's not my forte, and it's not what we're focused on quite yet, but we're going to need it. Certainly architectural and landscape design, we got some strong people in those areas, permaculture, et cetera. And operations, it's not just the design, but it's the functioning. So permaculture, food production, animal husbandry, things like fancy words, arboriculture and silviculture. Trees are really important in permaculture, and silviculture is trees and combined with animals, as I understand it. Certainly building, construction, and maintenance. We're going to need to build housing and infrastructure, and then maintain them, facilities, and site operations. Before we get to the master units, the last thing I'd like to cover is some of the principles and values that earlier on amongst the landholders primarily we came to, and this can grow, and as and each community might come up with their own set of them. But some of the principles and values that we've identified so far: first, we're all in this together. We need each other. We're not just a bunch of individuals. People care, land care, fair share. Everybody, or a lot of people, recognize that from the permaculture ethics. Love of the natural world. We need to care about nature and that. Roots in land and community. That's what this is all about. Healthy bodies, minds, and interpersonal relationships. What are we doing this for? Well, we want healthy life in all sorts of ways. Individual or collective spiritual foundation. That's been identified from the beginning, and that's not in no ways alien to Prout, that's for sure, which is based upon that. Some personal qualities that we've identified is self-motivation and resourcefulness, integrity and financial responsibility, and creativity, collaboration, courage, those sorts of things. So the last thing I want to cover here before we go to group discussion is just my own initial comparison with master units, which we can explore a little bit further with people that are more familiar with that. So the concept of master units, John alluded to it in the beginning. This was developed 60 years ago, at least, back in the 60s, maybe even in the 50s, I'm not sure. And the original intention was to serve the downtrodden of India, who were still very numerous. And there were 5 key requisites enumerated: food, number 2, fiber and fabric for clothing, 3 is schools, 4 is medical services, and 5 is housing, especially for the poor. People that this was focused on lived a bare subsistence life. And the master units, as I gather, were intended to increase their subsistence capabilities and skills. We, on the other hand, are coming from a life of excess consumption. And we need to just establish basic subsistence skills in the first place. So we're coming from a different direction. The high cost of land requires capital and income beyond a subsistence level to get started. So that's a challenge we have too. So arguably, subsistence is more difficult for us than them. So those are some of my thoughts on it. So the Resilient Communities Project is growing. We're welcoming collaborators. That could be people that might want to be members of community and help develop this on the ground. Landholders that have land that they'd like to see something better used for something more sustainable and regenerative and create a better future. And then people that are on the support team who aren't necessarily going to be part of the community because they like where they are, but they bring skills, resources to this. We'll be putting my contact info. I'll say it right now. If you want to get in touch with me afterward, just my email is bsmith.interplay@gmail.com. If you're listening to the recording, that's easy to do, but I think Prakash is going to put it on the screen, or we're going to copy it into the chat for the next section. So before you go into the discussion, I'd just like to open it up for, I'm going to go back to the screen where I can see people. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. I'd like to just open it up for, I threw out a lot at you here in the last 20 minutes. I'd like to open it up for comments, questions, any thoughts that people want to bring up before we go into kind of discussion. And maybe we can do the hands up. Everybody knows probably by now how to put a hand up. There, we got Amy. You can tell us how your name is pronounced first, and we'll just take people as their hands come up. So first of all,
Amy.
did I pronounce your name right? And why don't you tell us your name?
Amy.
Amy, good.
Okay, I have a quick question. Do you have an idea of the acreage and the minimum number of houses? And what are the basic community houses that needs to be shared for that particular, you can say subdivision or, and have you done it? Is there any model?
Yeah.
And what is the percentage of spiritualists or progressive, something like that, or is it like a project?
Well, it's a project, and this is not intended to be, so I think we see that each community is going to have its own kind of character and group of people. You asked about size. I think we're ideally thinking in terms of enough land to, if it's really needed, to support the number of people there. So how much that is, I don't quite know. It depends on the land.
May I interrupt you? Baba's
Sure.
given a minimum of 5 acres.
Yeah. And 5 acres, I think, is intended to be not an area that can fully support a very big group of people, but that can be a core for people who are living on land around it. A number of the average property size that we have people involved with so far there's a number of them around 40 acres. And so it might be that, 10 adults and some children could largely support themselves on 40 good acres. I don't know.
Awesome.
That need to be determined. So I don't know, does that answer the questions? Were there any other questions in there that you posed that I did?
So I understand it's a project.
Yeah, it's a project. We don't have
the target is minimum 40 acres. Because there was a family of how many people? There were 6 to 8 acres, African American. They said, enough of this boiling, we will create our own our own village.
Yeah. No,
I think it was in Georgia. It's in Georgia. So that's good. Thank you very much.
Sure. Well, we would support people that, are aligned with a spiritual background or cultural background, ethnic background. That there's nothing that's good. People have to have something that holds them together. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Comments are great. Just any thoughts here before you get to more specific questions or, for discussion. Okay, I don't see anybody popping up here. So, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go into breakout groups. Has Prakash or John? Oh, we had a couple just jumped up. Let's do those before we get to it. We don't want to take too long on this one, but we'll go with Peter next. I listened to your presentation that John sent me, Peter. Glad to see you here on master units or something like that. So why don't you, I'm interested in your comments, Peter, and everybody else. So go ahead.
Well, thanks. You did a really good job. I thought going through all of that and I'm impressed. It's good. It's something that we all be needing to do and we all feeling this for the future. A few comments. The co-housing movement, their magic number is 16 people, somewhere around there, not too few and not too many. was their whole point, which I thought was interesting.
Mhm.
And the one thing that I think is really important here is, I mean, I love just about everything you said, but the relationship, the symbiotic relationship with the surrounding people. Yes, we don't have the real poor and downtrodden, like, you know, where these master units started, but our relationship with the surrounding communities, even if they're just individuals, is so important. And that's why the basis of this concept is one of service. So how will you do service for the surrounding communities is through, my thing is education. It could just be public seminars, you know, on permaculture, on your agriculture, on your type, what we're doing, you know, sort of thing, or meditation, yoga, you know. So education and medical are the two things that I think really still, medical meaning it could be medicinal herbs and products that we make with our agriculture, or it could be a clinic, it depends on the members, of course. But I think those two ways, because those are the best security for the future, when the people around you love you instead of walls and barbed wire and stuff like that. So that was just something I wanted to add. Thanks, Brad. You did good.
Thank you. Thank you. No, appreciate that. Great points. And yes, we a lot of people have been involved with this are thinking in the same way that you're suggesting. So, how do you pronounce your name? Tappan or Tapan or?
Yeah, Tappan.
Tappan. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I have an operational question, which is that since you said it's a project, how did you sort of like go about like getting the permit, the subdivision, the storage, the water solution, water service, and the taxation? How do you manage the taxation of the? How do you deal with the government? I mean, when you establish this, I'm just ignorant, so I'm asking this question.
Yeah, so this is still in the developmental stage, so we don't have all those things worked out. We're in the process of looking for lawyers. I'm talking to lawyers right now, you know. I happen to have moved into a recently, for the learning process, a cooperative housing, housing cooperative on a community land trust in Eugene, Oregon. So there's a lot of places to learn from and organizations to work with. So we don't have all those things answered yet, but we have people with skills. We have an architect, we have people with building skills and experience. So those are things we'll be working out, is the quick answer. So, okay, Alan. You're muted.
Thank you.
There you go. You got it.
Everything I've heard so far. Your request for comments without questions, I'll make it brief. I have two of them. One is, you know, the sort of the basic unit size. I think I heard you describe maybe 10 to 15 adults or 5 to 10 children. You know, I think that might be a little bit small for some, you know, for a higher impact on society. But that's just personal observation and thought. But I think the most intriguing thing for unpacking is how you contrasted the origin of massed units with the downtrodden in India versus, you know, what subsistence level might be from people coming to voluntarily elect out of a much different economic system and probably on average less downtrodden population. People can sort of opt out of the conventional American society into, you know, something. So I think that really, in the right set of circumstances, I would be very interested in exploring that and seeing how that might influence the development of the idea, which I find very scalable. And, you know, that's where my enthusiasm lays. One of my enthusiasms.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Alan. I only want to make one comment on your comment. The number of people, there's a reason for that, but that's not, you know, it's not firm. It's a starting point. The main reason for it is, in general observation, if you get too many people to begin with, you have more potential for conflicts and factionalism and people not knowing each other. And also just the carrying capacity of land that might be available, so we don't have to be able to find such big places. But and the way we're seeing that kind of the aggregation to more people is if we can get something small start. This is just our vision, okay? It could be bigger, but if we can get something started, and then maybe places right around there will transition into it too. We'll start supporting people with land, older couples that want to stay in their land, and we'll be able to help them stay on their land by kind of joining us and creating other little network communities, or even maybe kind of part of the same community. Anyway, that's our thinking, but we're totally open to how it's going to unfold. And that's part of the learning process. Okay, Jayadeva is next on my screen.
Yes, Namaskar. A number of years ago, I spent several months at an eco-village on Vancouver Island called Our Eco-Village, or One United Resource. And this was an intentional community, like a master unit. And one of the things that I learned there by living there is that we had a number of guest speakers. There's a woman by the name of Diana Leaf Christensen who wrote Creating a Life Together, and she gave a workshop there. And she said that potential communities, eco-villages, and so forth can be successful, but the main reason that they don't work out is because of finances. And because we can have all sorts of great intentions, but if we don't have the necessary finances, it's not likely to succeed, because you're actually going against the system. You have to meet certain bylaws and building codes and so forth, and you have to work together with the permitting departments or wherever you're located at, and it adds up to time and expense. So my question is, or comment is, just that in order for it to make a successful master unit, is that finances have to be well established for it to be successful. And if you want to read her book, you can easily find it. It's called, again, Creating a Life Together.
Great. Yeah. Diana has a couple books. I've met her several times, but met her both her and Brandy, who started Our Eco Village many years ago at LA Eco Village, when Brandy was just getting started with Our Eco Village.
Yeah, I know her very well.
Yeah, it was brand new then. I've only met her once. But the thing I'll say about the financing is, I think financing is critical to get off the ground. My personal view from observation is and we do have strategies for funding. We're very cognizant of that and very focused on that. But that my general observation is what makes communities either fail or flounder, or founder, which are two different words, is the interpersonal issues. So they might keep going for years, but dysfunctionally. So anyway, but yeah, they're both critical. And saying which one's more important is probably, it's like you need both legs to stand. Julie.
Brad, let me interrupt here.
Yeah.
And just say, if we want to do any breakout sessions, I mean, we're down to about 20 minutes left in the program. Yeah. So I'm fine with, and maybe we can defer to the group. If people prefer to just have an open conversation, and you're fine with that, that's okay. I just wanted to flag the time so we can make a decision about that.
So I've been noticing that too, and I've been comfortable with the discussion here. Yeah, we're almost not enough time really to do the breakouts, because we were going to have 20 minutes for the breakouts and then 10 minutes for the the report backs and stuff. So I think that maybe we just need to kind of continue. Let's see if there's any. I can't see everybody here, thumbs up or thumbs down, but I'm thinking just continue with the whole group discussion, and maybe get into some, if once everybody's had, that wants to, has had a little comment or something, just kind of as a whole group, we can explore some of those questions and see what people have on those. Anybody have any opinions on that? You can unmute yourself and speak up, because I can't see everybody on the screen. So anybody have any thoughts on that one way or the other?
Well, what did you want to do breakouts? What were the breakout focuses?
Well, we have, I'll put with the breakout questions, and we could do this just as a whole group, but let me copy into the chat. I had it.
May
I
see?
can do it right now.
There it is.
Well-
I already had it copied and I just pasted it in. So I got my contact information and then the questions that we were going to use for the breakout sessions.
Mr. Brad, may I interrupt you?
Sure.
I just really want to mention this for the whole group. Like, remember the geographical situation of Lord Shiva's life is in mountain, and Lord Krishna in plain, and then Lord Anandamurti is by the water. We cannot do that. So master unit, I feel like we should try to do it in the plain. Like Asheville right now is mountainous. It's like uphill like this. It's a little bit disturbing for me. And if you're growing older, you want it to be easy. So if you're gonna look for a land, let it be plain, please.
Okay.
If you
I think we're gonna-
decide to do it, huh?
Yeah, great. I think we're going to have a diversity of places. Some of them are going to be a little bit more hilly and wooded, and some are going to be others. But I agree with you. Anyway, so nobody commented on. I think I'm just gonna. I don't think we have enough time to do breakouts, John.
Well, that's what I would say. I think that ship sailed. And
Yeah.
so I think it's been a very rich discussion with a lot of great points people are raising. So I would encourage people to just proceed with that at this point.
Let's continue
Julie.
with this. We got Julie next, and then I've posted on the chat. If we run out of, when we run out of what people have comments on, from the initial presentation, I will invite people to put your hand up and address any of those breakout questions that I just posted in chat. So, so either comments from the original or just go right into any anybody that has any thoughts, comments, questions, whatever on the questions that I just put into chat. Julie.
I wondered if any of the people that have already, signed up are here, Brad.
Yeah, we have some people. I just put it out late last night because we're scrambling putting this together a little bit late, and so I put it out, and there's a few people who are involved.
Like,
Nobody.
who are you?
Pardon?
Who are you? The people that are here that are already signed up for some of this? How many people?
Well,
is
there's nothing to sign up for quite yet, Julie, but we have a lot of people involved, and some of the newer people involved are here. I see Willie, who's jumped in feet and hands first, is helping on kind of the story and the website and stuff like that. I see, who else do I see? I saw
Willie
Ava
with the whale.
I don't know if she's still there, huh?
Willie with the whale, okay.
Ricky, is that RC? Ricky, is that RC, Ricky? RC has been involved, if that's the same Ricky, he's been involved since the beginning. He's a permaculture teacher, works with Andrew Millison at OSU, Oregon State
Ricky.
University. Yeah, so
you.
I saw Ricky there.
I'm
And
not
I'm
sure
seeing all
what
sorts
I'm
of more
asking.
names here, but anyway, those are a few of the names that I recognize on here who have been involved either more recently or before or before.
Yes, I'm
I
just
see-
sort of curious what they might say about maybe what inspires, what they hope, or that might be interesting to me to hear. And I can contribute to the last question. In what ways might you like to collaborate with us if so inclined? And my job as a human is to connect to tiny islands, to help develop first the tiny islands, and then connect the tiny islands of heaven on earth. So I'm definitely in. I have land, but we won't go into me right now. Yeah, I'm excited about the project, very excited to see. And that's what I would be curious about if anybody wants to share, what's interesting to them about this, and do they, want to contribute land, or they want to find land, or what's their interest? And that would be kind of interesting to me. That's alive in me. That would be inspiring. That's all for now.
Sure. And I see David, who I met a couple weeks ago, another person who's begun to be, hi, David, Dave, who's been a little bit involved and, just, we had one meeting up in Corvallis. So let's just, I want to leave it open for anybody that wants to answer Julie's question. Anybody that feels like it, no pressure, but any of you who have had a little bit involvement up to now, want to share. I
Julie,
might,
share your information.
pardon?
Julie can share her email or something. We can communicate with her directly on the chat.
Great, you can do it in the chat, Julie. Yeah. Totally.
Julie can give her email.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds great. Anyway, any of you that I've named or just to answer Julie's question, anybody feel like sharing? I might put, if you're there, RC, put you on the spot because you've been involved for a long time, on and off, you haven't, which has been just fine. He's part of the support team and could be a part of a community at some point. He's got some land already, small, and doing a lot of good work. Is that you, RC, there, or do you feel like saying anything? Okay, I'm not hearing him, but so maybe he's offline or just doesn't feel like commenting. Anybody else that's been a little bit involved? Some of you are just brand new. We've just barely talked, but anybody have any to answer Julie's question? Any comments?
Brad, there's something in the chat that you might want to read.
Okay, Bill. Hi.
From Bill.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll go to my tree there. I know I'll do my tiny little introduction of my tree, if I'm pronouncing your name right. We're trying to get the first on the ground as soon as possible. We feel some urgency on this. So we have one or more landholders that we're trying to work out a way to get started, at least on an experimental demo basis, to start stuff on the ground and have a place. We have people who are ready to go on the land and start doing some things. So that's the best I can say on that. We're ready. We're pulling our resources together to make that happen. How quickly we can do it, we'll find out. So that's my answer to Bill there. So my tree has her hand up. My tree, I know who you are. Kailash Eco Village. She and her husband, Oli, established that up in Portland. That's all I'll say to introduce you. I think we've been on a Zoom before together. So go ahead, unmute yourself and look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, namaskar. So I was thinking about the how to invite people who doesn't have deep pockets.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, they won't be able to afford to buy a unit.
Mm-hmm.
So Oli and I decided to make it a rental model.
Mm-hmm.
In that way, if you are, if you are able to pay your rent and you're 18 years old, you are most welcome to participate, to come in, and live in the eco village. So we are not financially in the state of being able to dole out units for much lower market value, just because of the maintenance is required. And lately, the insurance has gone up tremendously, that we almost felt like, what is happening? Is the society making it unable to house people, even
Yeah.
So that's but there are a lot of talent, skills out there, not necessarily that they have deep pockets, but they are able to come in and really put in practice and learn from them, their own skills. So we decided that the best thing for now is to do it a rental model. In that way, there are two separate big groups in our community. One is the administrative team, which deals with authorities, taxes, insurance, bookkeeping, and all that. And then the other group, which is bigger, of course, would be people working in the community. So the way to give the other, you can say the right hand of the community, the left hand would be the administrative team, and then the right hand would be the people. And so to give them the ability and experience of being able to decide and participate in the decision process is to break up this group into different teams. That way, a smaller team would be easier to handle with. In a group setting, a big group setting, the interpersonal relationship is harder to, iron out. But if there are only 4, 5, 6 people, it's easier, and the communication is actually much, much better. So in that way, we're not peaceful. We have our fireworks. We throw a lot of sometimes bombs in our Gmail thing, but we are able to see eye to eye together. We still hug each other when we see each other out in person. So that's what, and in addition now, last year, we were able to acquire the neighborhood property of 53 units. So Kailash has doubled now, and this new acquisition is called Annapurna Eco-Village. And the goal is to copy what Kailash has done.
Great.
So wish us good luck. Thank you.
Great news, Maitri. I don't want to, we have very little, and we've got at least one more person with their hand up. The only thing I want to kind of respond to Maitri is we don't want to have it to where somebody brought something. We don't want to have it to where you have to have money to get in. But on the other hand, we want people to be able to develop equity and roots. And so we think we've come up with a model that doesn't require upfront money by everybody. Some people can invest and get paid off. Other people, but you make good point, Maitri, about insurance and things like that. We don't have all the answers on the cost of insurance and stuff. And I know with my old nonprofit, I still have the nonprofit, but it's inactive. The insurance was astronomical for the amount that we were doing. Just basic liability, general liability insurance, and direct D&O, director and officers. For the amount of volume we were doing. So those are factors we got to take into account, and we'll as we go. So
in fact, we have to close down our website because our website has all the things that we do, and that includes Human Manure Project, composting, and insurance. Boy, those people don't like those. So we have to close it down and kind of subdivide the property again, not to include where those things are. So it's really a bummer.
Yeah. So Japa, was it Japa had your hand up?
I'll try to be just real quick. I just in listening to is it Maitri? I've been involved in a co-action group in Louisville, Kentucky. Over the years, we haven't really been able to get anything off the ground, but recently, because we know affordable housing is on the radar of a lot of cities. And so recently, we were able to begin some negotiation with some projects that the city is initiating to designate some new building projects, co-housing units. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because a number of things, the city can help with in terms of zoning and insurance issues and things like that. Because we've been working for almost 20 years, and a couple of projects, financing has been an issue and whatnot. But recently with this project that came up and reaching out to the city and encouraging them with the help actually of there's a group that provides services for adults that are sort of intellectually challenged, and then wanting to integrate some of that into the co-housing. It looks really promising that some of these units will be set aside for a co-housing model to be established here. So that's one. I know in general you don't want to work with the city or the government on things like this, but in this particular case, in the inner city project, it looks like it may be promising.
Bill, I hear you, and especially when you've been working on something for 20 years, you're going to take what opportunities you can. We're running out of time. I'll just say that where I'm living right now, what you see behind me, I just moved into this. This is an affordable housing 70 units that was just built, required all kinds of funding. A big chunk of the funding came through COVID funds. It was kind of a once-off thing there, but it's a great model they have here. We just need way more of them. So any other hands up or comments? We're down to our last few minutes here. Alberta, hi, Alberta.
Hi. So, it seems like the trifecta here for getting this off the ground is funding, land, and people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if you I don't know if I forgot anything in there, but can you tell me the challenge? Which is where did you find surprises that it was so easy or so difficult, and where did you find of those three? I actually know that you had many people step up to offer up land, and I thought people would be interested in that, and then the other two, I'm not sure where they sit in terms of challenges.
Yeah, the quick answer is my original idea when I conceived this was just kind of the standard intentional community thing. It gets some people together and go buy some land, and then I started meeting people. It started with Northwest Permaculture Convergence. Thank you, Julie. I met one landholder through one of the monthly Zoom sessions, and then he led me on to other landholders, and then I started bumping into landholders through different things, and so it was a great surprise that there's people that own land in the, that are very open and interested in this, and we've got a lot of input from them in over time. As far as the other two things, we have our strategies on financing, and we have people that have expressed interest in putting their money into this without actually looking for that yet. So, and we have some other strategies for financing these. So I don't have time to go into those right there. I still see the people as the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity. And we've had a lot of incredible people stepping up, and we're barely starting to get the word out. So I'm really happy with how this is happening and unfolding right now. So let's see. Let me see if there's any other questions. Primarily interpersonal. Well, I don't know if I should answer that one. Yes, we've only had one challenging interpersonal issue, but I'll be transparent. I got accused of being a sexist because I made a comment in a meeting that it'd be good to get more young men with muscles, because I don't want to be the one older guy, I was making a half joke, and that was considered sexist, and it kind of blew up, and a few women left. So these things can happen, and people can make their judgments as to whether I'm sexist or not, or whatever. I want to say one thing. I've gotten accused of both not being directive enough, of leading strongly enough, and the opposite. So maybe I'm somewhere in the right zone there. Anyway, John, now we're down to 1 minute, and we want to respect people's times. So well, if we can save the chat there so we can look through it later, I want to just encourage anybody that's interested to get in touch with me as an entry point. My email I put on there, up where I had the questions. So And you can get it through Prout Alliance, somebody through, if you somehow didn't get it here. So, John, how do we close this?
Yeah, no, Brad, this has been an outstanding presentation, and I appreciate the very active participation of those in attendance. I think it's been very edifying, informative for everyone, both Brad, you and the group working on the project, as well as all of us that are very interested in those kinds of things happening. As far as contact, materials, the session is recorded and is added to the Prout Alliance library, and so even where presenters do provide their contact information, so it's readily available online, so people can attend the virtual session at their convenience and just review what was shared and said. The contact information is there. Prakash, perhaps you could save the chat and we can provide that to you, Brad. It's a good point of reference, because I think there are some great comments that were added online. Some people prefer to do it that way. But I think basically we just need to thank you for an outstanding presentation on a topic that I think is just increasingly important to so many. I think many comments this evening underscored that reality. Housing is simply, for the most part, not affordable anywhere these days. And so addressing that, I mean, it's just a fundamental basic necessity. How do we address that, as well as other basic things? So I think projects like you're working on are models, and models have the added benefit of something that someone can, maybe not exactly replicate, because there's always unique aspects, but they can adopt and build something, that works for another group of people in another location. So I think you're involved in doing some pioneering work, and it's recognized and much appreciated. So thank you, Brad, and thank you to all of you who are able to attend this evening. Continue to watch for other presentations coming up in the future.
John and
yes,
Brad, I put in the chat a link to Prout Alliance website where this will there are different presentations have been archived, so you can see them, and this one will
thank you.
A week or so will be there. There's also a presentation by Peter Fleury, who spoke earlier, talking about more in depth about master units. I think there's a question from Julie. If you click on that link and you do a search on Peter Fleury, Fleury, you'll find his presentation. There are master units, hundreds of them all over the world, just a few in the US.
A few.
Excellent. The only thing I'll add is I saw some good stuff there. Anybody want to get in touch with me? You got my email there. Sachi had a good question. I'd love to explore that one with you. So anybody, feel free to get in touch with me. I'd love to explore this. Some of you can know that. So love to hear your ideas and explore this, because that's how we're going to learn. Thank you so much, everybody, for showing up. There you go, Julie.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thanks, Brad.
And thanks, John and Prakash, for organizing this and putting it on and giving all of us the opportunity to explore this for an hour.
Namaskaram.
Namaskar.
God bless. More power.